Idaho Matters is brought to you in part by St. Luke's Pharmacy, now offering free home delivery. For daily medications or one-time prescriptions, home delivery is easy to set up. It's convenient and safe. St. Luke's Pharmacy, now delivering to your doorstep. Information on how to get started at stlukesonline.org.
So you can't see this, but hopefully you can hear it. Behind every Boise State Public Radio podcast is a team working hard to bring you stories that matter. So if you value podcasts like this one, please support them. Hit donate at boisestatepublicradio.org. Thanks.
From the studios of Boise State Public Radio News, I'm Gemma Gaudette. You're listening to Idaho Matters. In the normal world, a corporate retreat is meant to give you the chance to unwind, do some team bonding, maybe even take in some scenic views. But in Rachel Moore's new thriller, Safari Murder Party, the getaway isn't quite so relaxing. When Fletcher Spence is given the chance to join her magazine's remote island retreat, it sounds like the kind of career-making moment she's been waiting for. But once the group arrives, she soon finds that there's much more at stake than just a promotion. Our associate producer, Hannah Gardosky, sat down with Moore to talk about her new release, so let's take a listen.
For those who have yet to pick up a copy of your book, can you tell us a little bit more about your story?
Absolutely. Safari Murder Party is exactly the kind of goofy, zany, unhinged thriller that it sounds like. It follows Fletcher Spence, who is an executive assistant for, I would call him the most fearsome CEO in the media world. His name is Dyer Cartwright, and he is the CEO and president, so to speak, of Cartwright Media. And she's his right-hand woman, but she absolutely does not want to be. She longs to be a travel photographer for one of the Cartwright Media magazines called Jet Setter. So, like you said, she finagles her way onto this corporate retreat that is anything but what it seems. Upon Dyer's unfortunate and bloody, we shall say, demise, he leaves a will and testament that says the last person to survive on the island will inherit everything, the multi-billion-dollar company, all of his assets, except for this island. This island has been bequeathed to his only heir. His name is Waylon, and Waylon and Fletcher have a complicated backstory, but they might just be the only two people they can trust on this safari island.
Now, where did the initial idea for this story come from? Because it's so much fun.
I really loved reading, and it's actually in the book, I loved reading The Most Dangerous Game by Richard Connell when I was in high school, and that recently entered public domain. So when I learned that that was going to be available for kind of rebranding, so to speak, I wanted to modernize it. And at the time, I'd worked a handful of jobs, some better than others. And also, I think there was just this general dissatisfaction, particularly as we started to move toward like remote work and feeling more disconnected from our coworkers. And I think that there's obviously just a natural competition in a workplace because even though these are your team members, sometimes people get the promotion you want. And what would that look like if we, amped it up and we made it super exaggerated and just gave it kind of this over-the-top satirical wash of outrageous, goofy, funny, but still like romantic. And in my opinion, somehow this managed to come out a hopeful story of believing in yourself. And so those were kinds of all of the things that I wanted to throw in this bubbling stock pot when I was cooking up this book. And it was really, really fun to work on.
Oh my gosh, and it was even more fun to read. Now, the setting is wildly escapist, but the office politics feel very recognizable. Were there real workplace dynamics or media industry observations that specifically fed into this book?
I obviously will have pulled things from my own life just as inspiration, but certainly there's no one specific person or like I've never worked in publishing. So all of that is completely fabricated. But I developed this sort of Pavlovian stress response to the sound of my email notification or the sound of my Slack notification when I was working with some of my remote jobs. And I just thought, I'm literally at home. Like I'm at home and I'm being pinged, but it feels like I'm running from lions. And I've never worked a job that is actually life or death. And so being like, well, what would it be like if your job was life or death? And that made me be able to bring some of that more just absolutely over the top energy to this story. I always say that I wanted the island to kind of feel like it could exist in our world, but obviously doesn't exist in the world that we know and love and the rules that we abide by. Kind of like how the island in Spy Kids 2 is not a real island. It's like that one is a mad scientist playpen, and this one is like a billionaire's zoo.
Oh my gosh, I love that. And I think we can all relate to hearing like our Slack ping our teams ping for like the 100th time that day and literally feeling your blood pressure rise. Um, so Fletcher's an overworked assistant, desperate for a promotion. What drew you to telling a survival story through her perspective in particular?
I love Fletcher. I think she was such a fun character to write, and I wanted to kind of bring someone to life who is not at the start of the story. She's ambitious, but she doesn't know how to act on it. So I wanted to work with this character who would have no choice but to go after what she wants, because it can be scary to having ambition, I think, is a scary thing innately, because if you want something, that means you have something to lose. And she's always been too afraid to actually strive for that promotion she wants to, because maybe she'll fail. And being on this safari island where the electric fences keeping the animals out, gone. Her boss, who was her safety net at the company, gone. Her only ally is her boss's Nepo baby son, who she low-key kind of hates. I mean, that's crazy. So her only option is to try, because if she doesn't try, she will not survive the week on this island. And that was really fun because I got to sort of put her in the position where she had no choice but to succeed. And that's the one thing that she really prided herself on being able to do. And now she's going to put it to the test.
Fletch's and Waylon's relationship evolves under, let's just say, intense pressure. How did you approach writing their romance in the middle of such chaos?
I love a romance book. I always say, like, I will not write something if it doesn't have some element of romance in it. And obviously here, the thriller aspect takes center stage, but I always viewed Fletcher and Waylon's story as like the heart of the novel, because in my head, the real world is scary. Like, the real world is hard and it's dark and you never know what to expect. And in my books, I get to make sure that something as true and good as love can win every time, even in the most unlikely of circumstances. So for me, it was really, really fun and rewarding because they get into some shenanigans. I mean, one of my favorite scenes in the book is Waylon versus a bush baby, which is not a natural born predator. And to be able to use that as a sort of counterbalance to the really exaggerated gore and violence. Like, I'm not a scary woman. And so that is not my natural habitat. And so I liked being able to sort of balance the scales with this sweet, heartwarming romance where Fletcher wants to believe herself, uh, you know, willing and ambitious enough to really try. And Waylon is the one who's saying, like, I know you can, like, prove it. And I love that.
Ugh, I love that too. Now, you've written paranormal YA before, and now, like we've just been talking about, you swung over to adult thrillers. What kind of freedoms did writing for maybe an adult audience open up for you creatively?
It is such a different ball game. And I think that we as adults, right, carry so many elements of our adolescence and our childhood in us. Like, that part of us never goes away. And so even though maybe the content changes a little bit, like, I'm still 16 in some facet of my body. Like, that 16-year-old version of me lives in me. But you're not sort of shepherding teens into the rest of their lives in adult the way that you are with teen books. And so I was able to pull out a lot of my adult experiences to make jokes for a general audience, which was really fun. And it got to be way more violent, way more chaotic. Something that I worked really hard on with my young adult editor was, my books don't include a lot of real world violence because my young adult books are magical. I mean, literally there's magic in them. And so here I got to be like, and they have a gun and they have a machete. Tranquilizer dart. Like it was just really goofy and I had a lot more tools at my disposal, which is really a horrible way to put it, but it's true.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. Okay, so one of my very favorite things about talking with authors is hearing about their writing process, their creative process. So I'm curious if you could share a little bit of what yours looked like as, you're writing day to day and putting this story together.
Absolutely. This book came at a very interesting part of my life. I've talked about it a little bit in like my newsletter. So if you've read my newsletter, you know about this some. But I was laid off. I was a marketing girly and I was let go from my job in a round of layoffs a few years ago now. And at that point in time, I was out of books in my contracts. Both of my young adult books were packaged and ready to go. They weren't both out yet, but they were on the way. And I knew that my options were go back to work where I'm literally like too stressed I cannot eat, or we'll just try. We'll just try to see if I can sell another book, if I can write something different, something fun, expand my readership, but also the types of books I can have contracts in because you can only have so many at one time. You can't have too many competing books on the market. And so I was like, okay, I'll literally just see if I can sell another book. And if I can, then I will not have to be thrust back into the world of, Slack or, a content management system. So there was like a lot of pressure on this book, I think, in a way that really made me feel endeared to Fletcher, who mine was not nearly as dramatic. Like there were no lions involved, but it was sort of like, do this and try to follow your dream or don't. What are you going to do? And so for me, it looked like literally I just sat on my porch and I said, okay, we're going to write for as many hours in this day as it requires to make this a book. And I actually can't believe it's like here now and real. It feels fake still.
Seriously, I'm sure it does. And I'm sure I can speak for so many readers when I say that. I'm so glad you took that jump because this was such a wonderful book. What do you hope readers take away from your book after they finish that last page?
Safari responsibly is a big one. I think take your vacation time. I want you to close this book and immediately take PTO. Please, you deserve it. I mean, there are lots of jobs that your jobs literally are life or death, and I don't pity you at all. I think you're doing incredible work. And because that incredible work is challenging and demanding, physically or mentally or both, you should take some time off to recuperate and regenerate because your job should not kill you. And if one person out there reads this book and says, she is so right, we should take a trip. Oh, my work here is done.
That was our Hannah Gardosky talking with Rachel Moore about her brand new book, Safari Murder Party. And thanks so much for listening to Idaho Matters from Boise State Public Radio. Do you have thoughts about today's episode? Make sure you email us at idahomatters@boisestate.edu or reach out on our socials. Just by listening, you're helping to support public radio right here in Idaho. And I want to say a big thank you for that. Hi, Idaho Matters podcast listeners. If you're on your smartphone right now, or if you have it nearby, I wanted to pop in to tell you about something to check out. Boise State Public Radio is now on Nextdoor. Here's what that means. Trusted local news, thoughtful reporting, and stories from across Idaho right along your neighborhood updates. If you already have the Nextdoor app, you're halfway there. Just search Boise State Public Radio and hit follow.